Welcome back, everybody. Well, this is part 2 of our Mad Max, the Road Warrior Interceptor build, or Pursuit Special, or however you want to call it. Awesome car from that classic film Mad Max, the Road Warrior, and now again in Fury Road. We talked about what our building plan was for this car in our introductory video, and you can see we're making some good progress here. I've got the resin parts installed on the model now, and I'm roughing everything in. I'll talk about a little bit of the process that we're using to get this to come out nice. Now, these resin parts are really nicely molded. They fit really well. No issues at all. Everything's been designed to fit really nice with this kit, and you can see we're just kind of working our way around using some of our perfect plastic putty to blend everything in. The way this car is intended to look is that the spoilers are supposed to look like they're sort of molded right onto the body and not bolted on the top where you'd see a little bit of a seam or a gap around the edges. It's supposed to be completely flush and seamless. So we're using a little bit of putty and going around and getting all that done. You can see I've got just a little bit of a line here on the back that's kind of sunk in that I need to fill that. And up here on the top, I've got one that's going across the deck lid. We want to have this look like it's all been blended in, so we've got to go over that once more, and I've got to make sure I reopen up my slots here where the trunk would actually open, so we have a complete gap all the way through there, and I'll be doing that with a hobby knife here. But I'm working everything in. I'll give you guys a couple pointers that I found about working on the back end of this. Out of the entire resin kit, everything as far as modifying the body and getting it to work, it was all really straightforward and easy to do. It got a little bit tricky here in the back part, and one thing that I'll point out that you want to make sure that you do that'll make it easier for you guys is that you want to, these little kind of corner cap pieces that are actually included with the kit itself, these cap pieces for the spoiler, you want to make sure you go ahead and install those first, and you'll have to kind of figure them out yourself because the instructions just kind of show them pointed at the model and going on it, and they don't give you a really good picture of the angle they're supposed to fit or anything like that, so you have to kind of figure it out. And it winds up that they sit right on there's already sort of a little raised area on the back of the body here, and the forward edge of the spoiler part, the cap here, is supposed to line up with the forward edge of the kind of raised area that's already there. And you do that the same on both sides, and it should look like a little kind of an L that just kind of comes up and wraps around the top of the quarter panel here just a little bit and then stops. And you can see that line blends in. The reason I mentioned that it's important to put these on first and get them on nice and straight and everything is that you get no instructions at all with this resin aftermarket kit here, so you have to kind of figure it out. And the spoiler has 3 sides to it, so if you set it on the wrong side or facing the wrong way, you could have an issue where it doesn't fit. So what I did is I got all this lined up, and then I laid the trunk lid down on here and lined up the spoiler, and then just made a couple small little marks to make sure I had it, you know, where it's on the sides flush with these other parts, and then I glued it down. Also, up here you have this little filler panel that goes between the deck lid and the rear glass that you can see here. I decided I was going to build this model with the trunk not being able to be opened, because in the interior bucket here you can see there really isn't much in there, and in the original car it was still fresh out of the shop, so to speak, so there probably wasn't a bunch of interesting stuff to see back there, maybe a spare tire or something like that. So I really wasn't too interested in having the deck lid open. The hood doesn't open on the model anyway. So it's easier to actually glue this piece here onto the deck lid. That way you make sure that when you lay this whole thing down and you bring your deck lid flush with the rear panel on the back here, that will be in the proper place. If you glue it in by itself, you could wind up being a little bit off. You could have a gap there, or, you know, maybe too high or too low or something like that. And if you're going to build it with the trunk closed like this as always anyways, it makes that a little bit easier. So just a couple things I wanted to point out. But you can see we've been going all the way around this thing now. I've been scuffing this whole thing down. I'll point out that on these models where you're going to be painting, doing a lot of paint work, it's really important to do really good preparation on a model kit. So I started off by washing this in some warm Dawn dishwashing detergent to get the mold release residue off of it, and then I actually wiped this down with some denatured alcohol, which won't hurt the plastic at all, and that will take any of the little leftover kind of residue or silicone or grease that might be on the model from fingerprints or anything else, and got rid of all that. And then I've been going around it now, scuffing it down with 600 grit sandpaper, and anywhere that I couldn't get in the little nooks and crannies, I scuffed it with some double-aught steel wool, which is some really, really super fine steel wool. And that'll reach into those little areas and things like that. When you have a subject like this that has a lot of shapes and contours, it's really difficult to get into it with just basic flat sandpaper. But you can see I've been working my way around. As I mentioned, we opened up these taillights. We explained in our first video, the introductory video, that we were going to be lighting this kit, and these unfortunately come molded solid. They do give you the clear lens inserts to go in there, but I wanted to light this, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to cut those completely out. Well, it turns out that from the back side, it was molded fairly thick there, and these sort of cages that are around these light housings here are really thick. So I was able to take my Dremel tool and just go in from the back side and grind that down, and got it pretty thin, and then I was able to just take my hobby knife and go straight in there and just cut straight across a couple of times and open those right up really easily, and then a tiny little file to clean it all up, and we're ready to go. So now I can just tint my little clear lenses that go in here. This had a sort of a red and an amber combination, and we'll lay those in there, and when we put some backlighting behind that, that'll look really nice. And then it's nice that they already have the side marker lights cut out, and they do give you some little clear lenses with this kit, so we'll do those. I believe I looked at some pictures that showed the amber on the top and the red on the bottom, or vice versa, but I'll double check that. But it's kind of a bicolored, and we can do that with our little transparent Tamiya paints that we use here quite a bit. We've got the amber, the blue, the red, all those different colors, so we can make that look really nice. Up here in the front, we're going to do the indicator lights up here. These are not fog lights. If you look at the car in the movie, there's a couple scenes where they're on, and sometimes the headlights are on and they're not on, but when they are on, they're just kind of like dim looking. They're not really bright like you would think, like a, you know, a fog light or something like that. They're just like a little turn signal indicator, or a, you know, a driving parking light kind of thing, so they're not very bright. And we'll make some little lenses and get those lit as well, and then we'll light the headlights with some SMDs, nice and bright. And it has those unique covers that go over the top. But we've been working on the body here now and getting it ready and getting everything worked in. What I wanted to show you guys now is I'm working on getting these, I'm using some of this perfect plastic putty here, and I'm filling in these little seams that go around. As I mentioned, everything's supposed to look molded in here. So I've just got to do these here, but I've been working this down with some 320 grit sandpaper just to kind of rough it in. And then I've got to put one more coat here across this line and also across on the top of the deck lid, and we should have this all pretty well blended in. So when after we finish that up, we're going to take you over to the spray booth and take you through our whole process of going from applying our adhesion promoter and then our primer and then our first base coat, which will be black. And we'll take you through that whole thing. So I'm going to be sanding away on this a little bit, guys. When I come back, we'll be over in the spray booth area and ready to go. So I hope you'll enjoy that. Back in just a couple seconds, everyone. All right, we're moving on with the build down. We've moved over to the spray painting area, and I've got the model all dusted off and cleaned and ready to go. So I'm going to start off with our adhesion promoter here. This is the Duplicolor. It works great on plastic model kits, like I talked about, to get our paint to stick really well. We've scuffed this all down with some 600 and our double-aught steel wool, so we should have a really nice bond on this. So I'm going to just put down a nice thin even coat of this stuff. We don't have to go crazy with it. Let me get you centered up here, and we'll get started putting this down. And it just goes on nice and easy, like almost like a gloss clear coat. And you want to put it on so that you see it going on in a nice even coat with no kind of rough looking overspray around the edges, and that's mainly what you're looking for. And this stuff dries super fast, so you pretty much want to start priming within a few minutes after you lay this on your model. And then we're going to be using this Transtar high build gray primer. This is another automotive based. You guys have seen me use this before. This is a great primer because it's a nice high build primer. The important thing I want to mention about this is it's you've got to shake the heck out of this stuff before you use it. It's a really heavy, thick primer, and the pigments will settle into the bottom of the can just even after a day or two of just sitting. So you want to make sure you shake it up really good. I've already gone ahead and done that, but we're ready to go. We don't want to wait very long before we lay our primer down here, so we'll go ahead and get started on that. And I'm going to get out my little heat gun here and just kind of help it cure as I go along. I'm just going to put down a nice even coat on this. So here we go. And this, I really like this step because this tells me how my body work is looking here in the back and what more I'm going to have to do. As I said, working in the trunk panel on this, you have to do quite a bit of sanding to blend in those little spoilers and then kind of re-scribe some of the lines here on the trunk detail and all that. And I think it's looking pretty good. A lot of contours in this body to follow. I like painting my models up on a little can like this. In fact, I'll often put it on another platform because having it up high, you tend to, when you paint your model cars, you tend to not get along the bottom edge on the lower half of the quarter panels where they kind of curve under, and the rocker panels and all that. So I'm going to grab my little platform here and stand the model up on that. We'll put one more touch up here on the bottom edges of the model. You can see now in the shot that hopefully I'm not too, there we go, we'll get you back in on it. And we'll tighten up just a little bit. You can see that we missed kind of this whole bottom edge here, so I'll just be able to hit this now. I can see I've got to do a little bit more cleanup on my scribe work here in the back, and I've got a little bit of the seam line on the edge of the trunk lid here that I need to fix yet. But one more little coat of putty and going over it once more and it should be ready to go. I'm really liking it. We'll let this dry a little bit. We'll come back and finish up our final putty work on this, and then we're going to be laying down our base coat, which will be a semi-gloss black, and that's going to give us the basis to work with, and then we'll be putting a really nice high gloss coat of automotive clear finish on this. So back with that in just a couple seconds, guys. Okay guys, get ready for the really fun part of building models. We get to finally paint this. We've been doing all this hard work getting it all prepped and ready to go. We completely sanded down all of our primer now with some 600 grit. We've wet sanded it to get it nice and baby smooth. We've checked all of our work, and you can see that we've got all of our putty work done here on the back, and everything's blended in really nice. So we're going to finally lay down our black paint. I've cleaned this entire thing up with some my tack rag here, which is, I've demonstrated this little guy here before for you, but this is something we use all the time here in the shop. It's kind of a wax impregnated rag, and it'll just take all the little dust and everything off the model that's might be laying on the top, and make sure we have a nice clean dust-free painting surface. I've got my ventilation going, and I've got my little mini spray gun loaded up with some black paint. So let's start spraying this thing, guys. Here we go. I want to mention before I start, I took my airbrush and I painted the inside of the model first, and then went all the way around the bottom edges here and inside the wheel wells, so all those areas are already covered. So all we have to do is blend in the top area here. So I'm going to start off by doing the hood and the roof, and then we're going to work our way down to the side. So we'll start with the nose and just keep on going, guys. A lot of nooks and crannies on this model, so we have to make sure we get them all. Okay, we've got our initial coat down, so we're going to just hit it again a little bit more and dust off our final top coat here. We're going for that really smooth look. This is looking really nice. And that's the end of our paint, guys, so I'm going to stop right there. Okay, everybody, so we finished up laying down our base coat on our body now, so we're going to come over here to the bench and work on the interior of the model a little bit. I've assembled the seats and the rear package tray there, you can see, and I painted the center console kind of the wood grain that it was supposed to have, and I installed the shifter, which I think is really cool that they gave you the exact shifter that we had in the movie with the little red knob on it on top to activate the blower, so that's pretty cool. But we want to add a little bit more detail to this, so we're going to add some carpet, simulated carpet onto the floor, and I'll show you guys a really easy way to do this. We're going to use some of this velour flocking material, which I have in several different colors here. It's just crushed up velour particles, really fine particles. I'm going to be using black, and then a little bit of Elmer's glue, which we'll just put down on the floor with our little brush here, and then we'll use this little application tool, which is a little item that I picked up off of the internet. It's kind of looks like an old-fashioned perfume bottle, but you just put your flocking in here and just kind of puff it on, and it puts a really nice even coat on this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to make a little puddle of glue here on my card, and then we're going to start applying this. Might be able to get a little bit easier out of here if I just take the cap off. I've got to have quite a bit of glue here. So I'm just going to brush this on in the areas where I want the carpet to be, and that'll be pretty much the floorboard and along the side of the console and over the top of the console here. And we're just gonna do a little bit on the floorboard here up on the top, around the side of the seat. We've got the door panel kind of tub that has to get glued onto the side of this, so I wanted to go ahead and do this before we get that done. And I don't have to be exactly precise here. The main thing I'm trying to do is I want my glue to my velour to stick where I'm putting the glue down on this. That's the concept we're doing here, and we want to just kind of get a nice general coat. We've got to do this pretty fast after we apply this, because once it starts to dry, we don't get the adhesion that we're looking for. And as I'll point out too, I did a little bit of I drilled a little hole here in the floorboard, because on the left hand side here we have that little kind of police siren thing, and once we get to installing the dash on this, I'll talk about how we are going to run our wiring for that. So let me go ahead and load up my puffer now, and we'll get this applied before it dries up on us. Don't need a whole lot. We'll just kind of put it in the bottle here, drop it right in there, and away we'll go here. Get our glue out of the way so we don't get it all stuck in there. And here we go. We're just going to dust this down. And this makes a really, really nice carpet effect, guys. You just got to get it on there, and it might take one or two coats. You don't really want to tamp it down too much when you're putting it on there with your fingers, because it'll kind of make blotches in it. It won't do that anymore after it's dry, but right now we don't want to touch that. We want it to look nice and even. This really, really works good. I've got to get over the back of the hump here on the back seat. Need a little bit more material here. As I said, you can look this stuff up online. It's available in different colors, so you can try this out on a model in the future. It works really great. You've seen Jeremy and I use this stuff on a couple of our car builds. Now once we get this down on here, we'll just give it a kind of a tap, and all the excess stuff will fall off where we don't have any glue. And then we'll kind of look and see if we need to touch it up anywhere. So we'll just tip this upside down and give it a nice little tap. Little blow there, and you can see that we've got a nice carpet in this now. If I can zoom in on it for you. Get this down on the picture here. I'll hold it right up to the camera for you there. And you can see that we've got that nice texture going on in there, and it's nice and in scale looking. It doesn't look, you know, like really thick shag carpet. It just gives it that really nice texture. and we've got it applied nice and even all around the seats and everything, so that's looking really good, guys. So we're pretty much done with that, and we'll be moving on to the doing the dash now, and I'll talk about when we come back in just a second on how we're going to install that and do our wiring. And we've got our little police siren here, then we've got the little radio up on top, which I'll show you this little part. It's pretty tiny, that's the face of it, but I've drilled a couple holes in this with my micropin vise, and we're just going to install a couple of pieces of fiber optic in a couple of colors like red, blue, and maybe some amber, and then we'll mount a little tiny SMD behind that, and that'll light all those up, and that'll get mounted on the ceiling. We'll use our magnet wire, and we'll just kind of sneak that wire over and through the top of the roof and then down and out the back here where you won't be able to see it. So that'll look pretty good. But let's move on and we'll get the dash installed here real quick, guys. Be right back with that. Well, we're back with you again, and you can see we've been working on the interior tub now, guys, and it's pretty well finished up. I installed the seats, did all the carpeting there that we showed you a little while ago, and we got our dash installed now. We used the little kit supplied decals there so you can see the real nice little gauges that are detailed out. We did the steering wheel, we did the wood grain on the console down there, but the coolest part is we installed our little police beacon here, which is really cool. And I used a little bit of clear Tamiya blue on that lens. Used a 3mm blue LED that I shaved down with my Dremel tool to make it fit inside this housing. Connected a couple magnet wires to it and kind of fished it all through here. You can see it runs down underneath of the dash and out the firewall here, and then back underneath the transmission tunnel. You won't be able to see that. This is going to actually run all the way to the outside of the car, out the bottom somewhere, and then into our base. Our control board will be mounted into the base. As I said, we're going to use a little control board for this that'll do a strobe effect. I'll just kind of simulate this real quick for you. I've got it hooked up to a 9-volt power supply. I'll just kind of touch it, kind of similar to the flashing rate that we're going to see coming out of it. Maybe a little faster, something like that. But you can see it's going to look really, really cool, and just like it did in the film. So that's really neat. So yeah, there's our interior, guys. Pretty well done. All right, everybody. Well, we're here at the end of our video for today, and we're just about ready to put the beauty coat onto this now. This is the high gloss automotive clear coat, which will put a really beautiful mirror finish shine on this model. I'll zoom in on this for you just a little bit. You can see we put our Main Force Patrol decal on there on each front fender. And that's pretty much the only markings the car has on it, except for the MFP plate that goes on the rear. So let's get ready to spray this thing, guys. I've got my clear ready to go, and she's been all cleaned up. So here we go, guys. I'm going to start off on the bottom edge here first. Make sure we get that nice and shiny. All right, came out beautiful, guys. We didn't get any runs or anything that I can see. I'm just gonna kind of hold it up into the light, make sure I don't have any dry spots on this. Sometimes you get them down in the lower half here. I'm just gonna touch this one more time along the bottom of the fenders here. And there we go. It looks really, really nice. I'll get you a closer shot on the camera here if I can. And we'll kind of tilt this up in the light here for you, and you can see we've got a beautiful, beautiful gloss on this, guys. It's going to look just like glass, just like we wanted it to. We'll do a little bit of a polish job on that when we finish, and it will come out beautiful, just like the car did on the film. Beautiful black paint job. Okay guys, that's going to be a wrap for this one. I hope you enjoyed this update. When we come back next, we're going to be finishing putting the entire model together. Now that we've got the interior done, the body's been painted, we'll be starting to add the rest of our lighting. We'll work in our taillights and our headlights and our little parking lamps in the front, so you guys will get to see that, and then we'll have the body ready to go down under the chassis. We've got to build all the suspension and everything too, so that'll all be covered in the next video, guys. So we'll see you next time. Again, take care and happy modeling, everyone.